It's Friday night in the A, and you know what that means. Kelly Price and Tori McElhaney coming at you on Rise Up Tonight, presented by AT&T.
Well, we hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas. We do know that Santa delivered the best present of all, a Falcons win on Sunday.
Good.
This week we saw QB2 turn into QB1 again, and we also saw Arthur Smith take matters into his own hands, shaving that mustache for a second time. So I guess it worked?
I mean, I guess. This whole mustache shaving thing for good vibes almost feels like Michael Scott saying that he's not superstitious, he's just a little stitious.
Yeah, Arthur Smith, just a little stitious, at least this week. All right, still the Falcons are a game out of the playoffs, both in the NFC South and in the wild card race, but this win just really felt big for any momentum Atlanta wants to take into the last two games and beyond. Let's huddle up about it.
Let's huddle up with Kelly and Tori on the world of Falcons football.
Gotta start with this Dirty Birds defense. 6 sacks, which shout out to rookie Zach Harrison, who had a career high 2, and Calais Campbell, who hits his $500,000 5 sacks incentive. Jesse Bates, 6th pick of the year, second best in the NFL now. Gardner Minshew, 20 of 37 for 201 yards, no touchdowns along with that interception. The Colts entered Sunday in the top half of the league in rushing, but they were stonewalled by the Falcons. They limited them to 92 yards on the ground. No notes, guys. Calais Campbell said it best. This is what it was supposed to look like.
Yeah, we got to give the defense their flowers, and I'm talking every level of this defense. I'm talking the coaches for getting them ready, the front with those sacks, the back end with the sticky coverage, and don't forget the middle with Caden Ellis and Nate Lamon. They were huge contributors in stopping the run. Truly, I had no complaints about what I saw from this defense last Sunday. Dare I say that it was the best that we've seen this defense, and we've seen some pretty dang good performances from them this year.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, it may have been a week later, but Arthur Smith finally got my message to run the dang ball. Here anytime you need some sage advice, coach. On Sunday, Atlanta averaged nearly 6 yards per rush attempt, highest since week 5 of 2020. Falcons also had 406 total yards compared to the Colts' 262, 29 points, a new season high scored, as well as the 19-point victory margin being a new season high as well. Overall, the offense averaging 6 to 7 yards throughout this game per play. It finally felt like we're finally seeing what these Falcons should be doing.
Can y'all tell we have a trend? Because it goes right back to what I was just saying about the defense. Is this the best that we've seen this Falcons offense? The difference between the offense and defensive units, though, is that the defense has had more performances close to that of last Sunday's. The offense, dare I say, no other performances this year comes close to what we saw them do against the Colts. And dare I go a step further, finally, that right there was a game where the Falcons looked like what I thought they would look like in 2023. However, the main complaint in that, we didn't see this until week 16, and that's what's so frustrating.
Yeah, I feel like we're a broken record some weeks with that topic. All right, all this to say, I think it's also fair to say that Taylor Heinicke brought a different energy to this team as its starter. We've heard him all talk about how his idol is Brett Favre, his identity, playing every down like it's his last, like the old gunslinger, but I feel like a little bit of that passionate play trickled across the entire offense on Sunday, and maybe part of that is just this entire team playing free with the inability to really control their own destiny at this point.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point, because really, what do the Falcons have to lose? Yeah, they have to essentially win out to have a chance at the postseason, but if the Bucs keep winning, it mathematically doesn't matter what the Falcons do to close out the season. Those back-to-back losses to the Bucs and Panthers have the potential to be games that alter and keep Atlanta out of contention for the NFC South crown in 2023. So the future is kind of out of their hands at this point. There's really only one thing the Falcons can do, which is just go out and play and honestly hope for the best.
Well, one of my favorite parts of the holiday season is holiday parties. And of course, the fits you get to pick for these occasions, like this New Year's Eve glitter I got going on here. The Falcons had some fantastic choices of their own for this Christmas Eve game. We are walking in, presented by Wells Fargo. First off, go off Tyler Algier. We should have known the run game was about to go off once we saw him walking in with this silk number. Look at our boy go, Tori, he's thriving.
Oh my gosh. First he shows up in the silk purple fit, then he averages 7.7 yards per carry.
Sheesh.
I know, our favorite little bowling ball is thriving, Kelly. I feel like a proud aunt.
I do too. The Falcons backfield really said, let's just keep the silk pajama vibes going. But Bijan Robinson was like, I'm going to add a little festive spice here. I like to believe he wore this on Christmas morning the next day, opening presents with the fam as well. In summary, he's an icon, he's a legend, and he is the moment here.
And the little personalized emblem on the pocket.
I know.
Bajan was ready for a classy Christmas morning. Fortunately for him, Santa brought him a win.
I love it. I love it. Finally, the man is money, and he dresses like it too. He wants you to know, just Gucci everywhere in case there was any doubt. I normally don't like a brand name like screaming in my face, but this is tasteful. In the sweater, giving holiday designer coziness.
Also the pants. This fit feels expensive, just like Jesse.
During this time between Christmas and New Year's, it's hard to kind of remember what day it is at times. Floating through this time with random college football bowl games playing in the background, certainly a tradition like no other. But what are the Falcons' favorite holiday traditions? That's our question of the week.
Favorite holiday tradition? My mom got a rule, everybody got to come home for Christmas.
We'll open one present the night before, and like it's always been like the best present.
Well, when I was younger, putting the cookies out.
Putting up the Christmas tree, man.
But now that I have a son, I am Santa, so I can bite the cookie down.
Family Olympics.
In the
summer, we put it all together then.
Granny, Nana, Mama, they all throw down, so like it's pretty easy. You just go out there and eat.
I like to do a yam competition. So I like to taste different people's yams and, let's see who make the best.
Gotta be the food, mashed potatoes, my mom, and the gravy. The Canadian gravy is undefeated.
I don't even cook them, but I just make sure I go taste everybody else.
And none of my family members can mess with me and my wife in 2-on-2 tennis. No one.
Hear that?
None of them.
Gotta wait till after Thanksgiving, but throwing that tree up, finding all my ornaments, and just getting busy.
Those are solid, and I want to be a part of the Ellis Olympics holiday
It was the
competition.
Complete eye contact into the camera, like no one's gonna mess with us.
Right, that was intense. I'd love to see that. All right, coming up later in the show, we caught up with Falcons play-by-play man Wes Durham to talk about a lot of stuff. Don't miss that conversation later in the show.
Rise Up Tonight is presented by AT&T and brought to you by the Georgia Lottery. Today could be the day. The Home Depot, how doers get more done. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. And Truist, when you start with care, you get a different kind of bang. It's time to rise up Atlanta. Kelly and Tori are back on your home for Falcons football. Fox 5 Atlanta.
Last week, the Falcons held their community honor show to recognize Falcons players for their contributions in the community. Time now to Rise Up for Atlanta, brought to you by Truist. The biggest award of the evening was the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, punter Bradley Pinion, but he wasn't there as he and his wife were awaiting the birth of their first daughter. But many other Falcons were there, including Grady Jarrett. They've been missing him on the football field, but he continues to pour into the community even as he rehabs that torn ACL. By the way, he said he is targeting a training camp return. As we know, the gospel according to Tori this season has had a lot to do with improving in the middle eight, something we saw the Falcons do on Sunday. And one thing that was interesting about the first drive out of halftime was the use of all three running backs, something we really haven't seen a ton this season despite the excitement around this backfield going into this season, going back to training camp. And spoiler alert, Tyler Algier plus Bijan Robinson plus Cordero Patterson in one touchdown drive. That adds up to a touchdown drive.
I mean, it's a beautiful sight. It truly is. You start the drive with a run and catch by Bajan. Then you send in CP to get some bruising yards. And you cap it off with Tyler, making people miss and getting in the end zone. That drive, that singular drive, was what I envisioned this backfield looking like the moment we knew that it was going to be a group that included CP, Tyler, and Bajan. If perfect drives exist, that drive was pretty close to perfection.
Yeah, it was good to see. Well, as we look ahead to the new year, we're talking about what the Falcons' New Year's resolutions should be. Still to come on Rise Up Tonight.
Plus, the voice of your Atlanta Falcons, Wes Durham, joins the show next to talk about the Dirty Birds and much more.
It's almost game time, Falcons fans. When the Falcons sack the opposing QB at home, you'll score a BOGO free Big Zack snack meal the day after the game. Valid online only at Atlanta area stores. Welcome back to Rise Up Tonight. Let's head in the nest with Kelly, Tori, and this week's special guest, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz.
So excited to have a really special guest in the nest with us this week, Wes Durham, the voice of your Atlanta Falcons. I mean, Wes, let's just start with this team. Like, what stood out with this win last week? I mean, it just seemed like one of their most complete games. What kind of stood out to you calling the game?
Probably, Kelly, that it was as close to a full 60-minute performance, really, that we've seen, right? I mean, there have been bits and pieces offensively, defensively, certainly in special teams. You've had, game-turning plays, those kind of deals. But it felt like that Atlanta really kind of found a path last Sunday, scoring on the opening drive in each half. That was certainly, to start those halves was really good. Felt like the Jesse Bates interception was the culmination of a really good day by the defense with the 6 sacks. So I thought coming away last Sunday afternoon that, maybe we've seen what this team can look like when it puts all the pieces together. And I'm optimistic about, Sunday in Chicago, and then, if things fall right around them, then potentially that last game in New Orleans having something in the balance for sure.
Right. That always looked like that was going to be such a big game to end the season. But they're at 7-8 here. So why do you think it maybe took until week 16 to see that kind of performance from all phases?
That's a good question. I think it's one we're going to linger on long after the season's over, is why did they have the slow start? The slow start seemingly in the first 6, where I thought really 4-2 would be really important out of there. It looks like turnovers are going to certainly be a piece of this. I think coping with injury is also going to be a piece of it. And remembering to ourselves that this may have actually been kind of the first year for Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot after 2 years of shuffling pieces around and then finally having a chance to develop what I would consider strong winning chemistry. Not that they didn't do that in their first 2 years, but I always felt like they were kind of chasing the corner, if you will. And now they've turned that corner. They haven't turned the corner in the wins and losses the way they want to, but it feels like they certainly have from a team building standpoint. That's probably the most encouraged piece about this for me this fall, is you feel like a lot of the guys that are here for some degree of term to make an impact on what this franchise is. It feels like that from a draft perspective. It feels like that certainly from a free agency spot as well.
That's a really good point. I think it's good perspective as your Falcons to keep in mind. So take those fans inside the booth with you and Dave Archer. Like, wow. What is your workflow, your preparation, your kind of in-game communication? Well, take us inside that.
Well, obviously, we've been doing this now 20 years, and grateful to the organization that Dave and I have had an opportunity to do this for 20 years. I think Dave and I have a very good friendship, and we also enjoy doing the games. We've laughed a little bit about it, that we really don't have to look at each other during the game to say, okay, your turn to talk or whatever. Because we've been doing it so long, we kind of have that innate sense about it. And that's been really good too. And that's been there for a long time. And now we're to a point where I think the fans have been just incredibly supportive of what we're doing. And now they listen, and they know when Dave's fired up about officiating, or they know that, I'm going to give them hopefully a good description of a big play, that kind of thing. And so they've joined in on it as well, to the point now on social media, they'll ask us questions, a day or two after a game about a call or something like that. And that means a lot too, because you've connected with this fan base. And, Kelly, all this has been a real blessing for me. And I think I can say that for Dave as well, that we've had the ability to do it as long as we have, and do it consistently together, and kind of see this story and be on this ride. And that's made it special too.
Take us inside your travel schedule for fans who maybe don't know how crazy that whole balance game is.
Okay, I got to knock on wood and hope everything keeps going right, okay? So essentially what happens, I leave Atlanta. We live in Cartersville. Victoria and I do. We live in Cartersville. So I fly out of Atlanta on Thursday to wherever my college game is on Saturday. Friday is a full production day on that side. And then the game, I did a package this year where the game was Saturday nights at 8 o'clock. So you can do the math and figure out that Saturday night is not a big sleep night for Wes. So then I was on the first flight Sunday morning, either back to Atlanta or to wherever the Falcons were. Fortunately, knock on wood, it worked all week, all year. Even nonstop from Raleigh-Durham to Phoenix, Arizona to do the Cardinals game that day. found a way to get from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa. That's not as easy as people think. You know that. You got to.
Florida's a much bigger state than people give it credit for.
That's exactly right. But, again, it goes back to the understanding of the support of the people at ESPN with their college football, the support of the Falcons. I mean, they understood what was kind of taking place, and, they want to help and make sure that it works out. So get to the game in the morning, typically ride in with the team to the stadium, like I was on the trip the whole time, and then come home after the game on the charter. And we're fortunate that some radio networks don't have that access with the charter. We do with the Falcons. That means a lot. It means I can get home on Sunday night and, and start my normal week, if you will, on Monday morning. But again, it's about planning and organization. I'm a little bit of a logistics geek. I want to make sure I got it right. And I may have a couple more jumps here, so that's why I'm afraid. I hope I didn't just jinx myself.
You might want Falcons night games more than the fan base or any of us.
Yeah, I do. I would like a night game occasionally. I can safely tell you that a night game occasionally would not be a bad thing.
Yeah, all those 1 p.m. kicks can definitely take their toll on all of us in the industry for sure. Yep. For those fans who don't know, his dad was the voice of the Tar Heels of UNC for decades. Why did you also want to go into this field rather than, I want to do something different or whatever?
There are a lot of us out there, Kelly, believe it or not, that thought we were going to be star athletes. Okay, and we just weren't good enough. And the bottom line is, when you lose that dream, no matter where you lose it, you can lose it in middle school, you can lose it in high school like I did, when you realize, okay, high school basketball is going to be about it for me. And, so you want to stay connected to sports. You have that passion. I was influenced because I saw how much my dad loved doing it. The preparation piece is a huge part for me. I don't mind the prep. I love the prep and, kind of the open book test concept of preparation to be ready for just about anything. So that influenced me a lot. And the second part was I genuinely enjoy sports. I genuinely enjoy doing the games. Every game is different. There may be some that have similar characteristics to it, but at the end, they're all individual, type events. And so I find that part to be really, really interesting. And now going to television, you go and you'll cover a game, but you're always looking for the angle to describe the game. Well, and that's what we have to tell the story you tell maybe before the game or after the game. We have to tell the story as the game moves. And that part for me has really been interesting to embrace in the last decade. I've done games consistently because I value the teamwork of it. I really do. That chemistry you build and that friendship you build with those people is important to your overall success.
Thanks so much for joining us, Wes. We really appreciate your time. And anyone who wants to catch the full conversation, it is a really fascinating one. Head to fox5atlanta.com, and we'll be right back on Rise Up Tonight.
Hey Atlanta, this is Head Crack talking, and you watching Rise Up Tonight, presented by AT&T.
I don't get caught up in whatever narrative is after 4 weeks of the daily narratives. You can almost write some of these narratives and live and die every week by the narratives. I don't use that lingo. That's the sensational line. It's like the scene with the dudes chasing the guy down from Happy Gilmore. Want to give away our scheme? What the hell is going on? Now you're really trying to put me on the hot seat here. Some narratives.
Just like the Falcons firing on all cylinders last week, so were we, Tori.
Oh, look at us.
We
were
on fire. And with the new year upon us in a few days, we wanted to switch up our narratives. We're going with what the Falcons' New Year's resolutions should be for 2024. Mine is like how a lot of us want to clean out, declutter, simplify our lives in the new year. The Atlanta Falcons offense should do the same. Arthur Smith has even said at times he's a victim of overthinking and also of being too conservative at times. But sometimes you just got to keep it simple. Don't make this thing more complicated than it needs to be. 9 Falcons caught passes in Sunday's win. 4 Falcons made it onto the rushing stat sheet. Get the ball to your playmakers like you did last week and let them make plays.
Okay, so this is less of a plea to the team itself and more to the organization of Yes, which I work for. But here's a New Year's resolution for the Falcons. Find a quarterback. For the last 3 seasons, we've been riding the quarterback carousel with Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and now Taylor Heineke. I'm getting a little dizzy. And moving forward, I would love to see some consistency at the position, which I realize is easier said than done, yes, but resolutions are just goals, right? So not precise outcomes. So try and find consistency at the quarterback position in 2023. please.
I think a lot of Falcons fans echo that sentiment. All right, Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you next week on Rise Up Tonight. Have a great night.